Motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes of December 21st, 2020.
Anybody opposed?
Second.
Anybody opposed? We're good.
Who seconded?
Jim?
Spears.
Financial report. Want to do that real quick?
Sure. Okay, so everyone should have gotten a copy of the financial report that I dreamed up. And there's really very little activity has occurred in the last several months. If you look down the first page, there's $1,200 for Weetamoo Meadow seeding back in November, plus more Weetamoo maps from Paul's Press. Those were really, I believe, the only two expenditures. And oh no, I take that back. On the second page, there was Radford and Associates for $2,500. Then on the income side, we got the annual grant from RI Foundation out of $3,817, and then December and January advances. And that's really all the activity that either Gary or I were aware of.
Let me just add some details here. You recall we approved $1,000 to do the reseeding down there at Weetamoo. It came out a little more than that. Actually, it came out even more than that. But John Farrell and I split the difference. And seed's extremely expensive now, and it's going up. But anyway, it got done. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. We covered actually 7.5 acres. So I'm really, really interested in seeing how that, what it does this spring. The trail guides for Weetamoo, I really couldn't find any easier way to do this. I've been buying $1,500 purchases of them, and but Paul priced 5,000, and which is more than 3 times as many as I've been buying, and it came out to not quite half, not even half as twice as much. So that seemed to be the best deal, and so I went ahead and did it. We were basically out. We did. Another item to note is we got our annual grant from the Rhode Island Foundation, Castle Land Stewardship Fund, on the second page, $3,800. So we've now got $10,000 in that, $10,730. So that's in good shape, and thank goodness we may need it this year, depending on the budget. And the other thing I want, we got that. I got billed. You recall I sent in the edits and corrections and so on for our master plan existing conditions report, and so she incorporated all of that, and I have the PDF of that. I'll send that out to everybody. But anyway, that's paying for that. So we're all up to date, and we're just kind of on hold now until we find out, what's going to go on with the budget and decide where to go. So, any questions or comments?
I see Trish joined us.
Hi, Trish.
Oh, you're on mute, Trish.
There we go.
Brian invited me to join you to hear about the GIS mapping.
Good. Glad to have you on board.
Ginger, hi Gail.
Hello.
And if you haven't, I don't know if you know Sean.
And hi Sean.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. And Martin and Gary.
Hi there.
I'm up in Vermont, so I'm going to mute myself because there's a lot of background noise and just listen in.
Okay, we can probably start with Eric then, right?
Let's do it.
Fantastic. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me sit in on this. I'm really excited. A little background. My name is Eric Westhoff. I'm working as the Land Stewardship Coordinator with the Rhode Island Land Trust Council, which is a really small regional organization that helps support all the land trusts in the state. I'm sure many of you have interacted with Rupert, the executive director, before. He has a lot of connections all throughout the state, and I'm really happy to be working with him this year. And so one of the projects that I'm doing as a land stewardship coordinator is I'm working with a bunch of land trusts across the state to try to digitize boundaries in GIS. GIS is Geographic Information Systems, computer mapping. Some of you may be familiar, some of you may be less familiar, and that's totally okay. The work that I'm doing is compiling boundaries from different land trusts and getting them into this digitized online format that you can easily access and have stored. So you're not just relying on things like, physical survey maps or things like that. You also have your boundaries digitally in one place. I'm using ArcGIS, which is a pretty common GIS software. And through this program that we're doing, we are giving land trusts free access to online GIS accounts, which means you can sign in, you can look at your boundaries, you can upload documents and have them saved online if you want. And the really neat part about this is that these boundaries online are connected to a mobile app that you can use on a tablet, a mobile phone. And what that allows you to do is walk your properties and look down at a map like you would Google Maps, and you'll see the property boundaries right there in relation to where you are. So you'll be able to walk those invisible boundaries and really help do some monitoring. You'll be able to collect points, take pictures, and really facilitate monitoring and just general working on the property. And so the Land Trust Council is, like I said, giving these free accounts. There's nothing charged here for any of the land trusts. We also have iPads and Bad Elf GPS units that you can loan from us. So if you want to utilize those equipment and you don't have, a mobile device to load the app on, then you can use one of ours to do that. Let me see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else for me to cover. In this case, I'm working with Tiverton Open Space Commission and Tiverton Land Trust in the town. And I'm also incorporating a few of the Nature Conservancy boundaries that border yours and are part of your larger management areas. So that will be good. But each land trust will have separate accounts as well. But if you so choose, you can have access to both of your boundaries if that's really helpful for monitoring and eases that. I'm happy to answer questions. I also can drop my email in the chat, and several of you have it already if more questions come up. I can pull up the map if you'd like me to share my screen, but that's, totally up to you. But let me know if I can, if I can offer any of that.
Eric, I know John hasn't been able to join us from the Nature Conservancy.
Sure.
But when I talked to him about it, he said he didn't, that they have some of that already done. He wanted to make sure you weren't duplicating efforts at all. No,
absolutely. Yeah. The Nature Conservancy has a really robust GIS already. So if for the project itself, we're not working with the larger Nature Conservancy. But what I might do is the few boundaries that they have in town, I might just incorporate in because they're part of your larger management areas. And I'm not doing a lot of extra work for their properties. Theirs are pretty set. This is definitely focused on lower capacity land trusts, and Nature Conservancy definitely has a lot of resources and expertise for that.
And it is, as you said, a lot of our areas overlap. So it's helpful, I think, to have all three organizations.
Absolutely.
On the same map. Is there any training opportunity for using the software?
100%. So, if it was not COVID, I would be doing pretty regular on the ground trainings. My hope is by the time late spring rolls around and case loads are down and more people are vaccinated, I plan to come out to Tiverton, for a day or two, and we can do trainings on some of the properties jointly. So we can go, I can go out with a bunch of volunteers with the app and show you how to use it, show you its applications. I'll also be making training documents and videos that will last beyond me. My position ends in July, but there will likely be someone who's coming after me, and all of these resources will be available to you for years to come. And so you'll have ample materials to learn how to use it even after I'm gone. But I would love to do some hands-on stuff. I'm definitely making videos at the moment, but I would love to do in-person trainings in the field as well. Like I said, hopefully in the spring when caseloads are a bit down.
Eric, after you leave, and we have what you've done on board. When we acquire another property, I'm sure we'll do that at some point in time. I guess it's a relatively simple thing to have that incorporated into the system.
It definitely is pretty simple, yeah, and that's definitely doable. That will be, there might be opportunities to give some simple instructions to do that yourself, but there's likely going to be someone in my position who has the technical know-how to do that for you pretty easily. And because this is all going to be under the umbrella of both the Land Trust Council and URI partnered with us, their environmental data center, with some excellent instructors on this kind of software, they can definitely help facilitate adding those properties in. So that's definitely doable. It's definitely a living, breathing data set that you can add to.
Great.
And just so everyone's aware, I had a brief exchange with Eric, and this would include easements as well, conservation easements.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely want to incorporate easement properties in there. When I incorporate easements, what I typically try to do is make sure that the boundaries that I'm drawing are based on the actual easement boundary. So I'm not just, plopping the property into your data set. I would like to, trace out the easements the easement allotments as best I can. So whatever documentation you have, whether that's written descriptions of the easements, or even better, some sort of easement plan or survey map that has that. If any of those are available for me electronically, then that I can incorporate that and refine the boundaries as closely as possible. I've spoken with some people, and when I incorporate these boundaries, I try to use the best available data. So oftentimes, the towns, including Tiverton, has GIS files based on tax maps, which are pretty good, but sometimes the boundaries are a little bit funky. Yes. And so what I've told others is that if you know that you have survey maps that either are physical copies or electronic, then I can definitely use those. If they're physical copies, you can just get them, even the big, 3x4 maps, you can get those scanned in for really cheaply at like Staples, because they have industrial size scanners. And that way you have an electronic copy, which is really valuable. So nothing's going to get water damaged or lost. But then I can use it and I can actually overlay it onto the maps and trace the boundaries and finagle them so that they're even more precise compared to the tax map. So it all, that takes a little bit more time. It definitely depends on what availability of those resources that you have. But I always try to use the best available data to make this so that it's most useful for you.
Yeah, we know of some spots on the town maps that aren't accurate. We've
Right.
come across, so. And would you consider including state protected properties as well, or?
Yeah, so actually,
Can we overlap in a lot,
Yeah, no, totally. The state does have a number of they have a number of GIS data available publicly, and so if that's something that you think is really important to integrate within your maps, I can easily just take their files and overlay it, so that you when you're using the app or you're online and looking at your boundaries, you can see the state ones as well. So that won't take a lot of extra work if that's something really useful for you. We can definitely incorporate some state properties in there as well.
Well, and if I'm correct, this would also be useful for creating maps, even paper maps, to distribute to somebody beyond the stewardship part of it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I've worked with a few land trusts on making some trail maps that can be publicly accessible that are aesthetically pleasing and can really help people with trails. So if that's something you're interested in, that's another project that I can work on that's smaller scale, but absolutely something that I can contribute for you. And you're right, these boundaries lend themselves really well to those kind of maps, not just for monitoring, but also for public access, for trails, for things like that.
Yeah, we also, I mean, we have those types of maps in the comprehensive plan, other places, so,
Great.
okay.
So Eric, have you already talked to somebody? Can you hear me, Eric?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Have you already talked to somebody from the land trust?
I have, yeah. So I
Yeah.
talked to Linda initially, and right now I'm in correspondence with Eduardo. So
Oh, okay.
he's been really great. So he and I had a great conversation, and he and I are directly in contact for this project. So
Oh, good.
yeah, I
Okay.
have contacts for both the Open Space Commission and the Land Trust on this.
Okay, because we've been working on putting together some maps of our properties and that sort of thing. So that's good. So I'm glad you're in touch with him because he's our land management stewardship person.
Fantastic, yeah. And if there's anyone else who would like, at the Land Trust who would like a meeting or a little more details, I'm happy to chat. But that's yeah, I have spoken with him and that's been really good.
Okay, so if you maybe give me your email, then I can make sure I get that information to other
Absolutely.
people.
Let me see. It looks like for the Q&A or the chat, it just has Q&As. Let's see. Is there any option for me to type in?
Well, if you're in touch with Eduardo, then he must have your
Sure.
email.
Yeah, yes, he definitely has my email,
Okay.
so you can definitely reach out to him, and I'm happy to pass that along.
Okay, great.
Great. Any other questions from people or clarifications I can offer?
Well, just so everybody's aware, if we go forward, there is an MOU that has to be signed to start this process, which is several pages long. And my quick read of it is it basically covers the free account part of it.
Yeah, exactly. I think the good summary is, you get free accounts. If you want to loan out the iPad and the GPS device, you can, no charge. And just, the disclaimer that I'm not I'm not an engineer, so, boundaries I work with, I'm trying to get as close as possible, but none of them are legally binding in any sense, especially as you think about possible encroachment or violations or things like that. So it's always good to double check with something on that.
Eric, did you say that this is going to be all part of an app that you can access on an iPhone? That's what that is?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, so it is. I don't know if it's both Apple and Android, but it's definitely Apple app. It's an app through ArcGIS known as Field Maps. Like I said, we already have it preloaded on the iPads that we are loaning out, but you can also, I believe, download for free on your own personal device. And then if you have the logins like the Land Trust will have, you could put this on your own personal device as well. And so that's really nice. And then we typically pair it with a GPS receiver because then the accuracy gets a lot better. When you use your internal GPS in your phone, sometimes it's off by 10, 20, 30 feet, especially depending on cloud cover, tree cover. When you use a GPS device, it can get down to 2-3 feet. And so especially when you're trying to find boundaries or boundary markers, that's why that can be really nice. So the GPS devices connect to the iPad with Bluetooth, so it's really compatible. But that is definitely an option for you.
So you'll be able to see wherever you are on a property. Just pull
Exactly. Yeah. So you'll base it a lot like if you're using maps on your phone, you'll be able to look down and see the boundary is 5 feet in front of you. You'll be able to see the little dot that represents you, and you'll be able to see it move as you walk towards the boundary. A practical application. I brought this out with a land trust, and they on a property that they weren't too sure about where the boundary line was, and then we went to a point, one of the boundary points that I had marked down, and we looked down and we found a granite marker that they didn't know existed. It was buried in some leaf litter. So nice proof of concept. They were really happy to find that and be able to flag it and know it for the future. Could
you take a picture of that marker and then attach that to the app too?
Yep.
So
you could attach it. You can You can go
That's
to
cool.
the point, you can drop a point like you would like drop a pin in Google Maps. You can also attach a picture, write a description, say who took it. So yeah, there's that ability as well.
That's
So
cool.
it's not just navigation, but you can collect data and save it as well.
You could use that to double check our maps for our trails as well. It sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. You, along with points, you could also take, you can take markers of your path. So you could start making a line. So you could walk with the iPad along your trails and map your trails as well. So that's also a nice functionality of it.
And the best part is it's free.
I'm not sure that's even the best part. Sounds like a good thing.
Yeah. So I'm really eager to get out into the field and work with you all. I really hope that the public health situation really improves a lot in the coming months. Because I think that's really I think the app is the real icing on the cake for this project and provides a lot of functionality for people. So I would really love to work with people and show them how to use it and be able to work with that on the ground. So, but yeah, in the meantime, I'm arranging these boundaries. I'll be in touch with people at the Open Space Commission and at the Land Trust just to check in to make sure they're accurate. And as I said, if there are properties that you are especially interested in getting the boundaries as close as possible, and you know that data exists, you know there's a survey, or you know there's a description of the bounds of an easement, any of that is useful for me, and feel free to send it along or get in contact with me, because that is, I want to make this as useful for your organizations as possible.
We do have a number of paper surveys.
Right.
We could get those scanned.
Yeah, and I think scanning them is a nice benefit in addition, just being able to make sure they're not in a filing cabinet somewhere that someone forgets where they are. Having them electronically is really nice. And as I said, with these online accounts, in addition to having these maps, they also act as like an online storage place. So you can drop documents in there like you would with Google Drive or Dropbox or things like that. You can upload all sorts of documents for your organization all in one place. Excellent. Anything else I can help with?
I would just say if everybody concurs, I can go ahead and sign the MOU and get the process started.
So moved.
Let's go. Let's do it. Yeah. No objections? It's done.
Yep.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Very
Well,
much.
you're welcome. And I think Gary and Brian both have my emails, as well as Linda and Eduardo at the Land Trust. So if anyone wants to get in contact with me or has questions, I'm more than happy to answer them and chat.
Sounds great, Eric.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for including me in the meeting. So I'll get going with the land trust end of it.
Enjoy Vermont, Trish.
And the
Thank you
grandkids.
all.
Bye. Thank you all.
Have a good meeting.
Yeah. Bye, Trish.
Bye.
Bye, Trish.
Bye.
Bye,
Good to
Eric.
see you all.
You too.
All right. You ready to proceed as usual then? Okay, I guess we can take right off with the announcements. Gail, did you have something you wanted to bring
Yeah,
to
I had a
mind?
few things to share. About a year ago, the Open Space Commission, the Harbor Commission, and the Tiverton Library sponsored a climate change program at the library. And it's kind of startling to me to think that it was a whole year ago. At that time, Sea Change Conversations did the program. It was well received, well attended. A lot of people expressed an interest in carrying on informal conversations. So we, diligently took down names and so on. And we truly hope to go forward with something else. Wayne Browning was interested in trying to get another speaker and so on. And then, of course, COVID hit, and then it changed everything for everyone. But nevertheless, the climate change situation has not changed. It has not stopped just because of COVID. as we can see from the intense weather systems that we're being hit with, there is still a lot of atmospheric action out there. Recently, my husband Chip, who is a member of the Tiverton Harbor Commission, made a presentation to them, sort of trying to identify the impacts of climate change, and also some evidence that these storms are in fact related to the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that there's an anthropogenic effect that we all can start to think about. And locally, of course, sea level rise is something that should be of concern to all the property owners who are coastal property owners, but also the town. And so the Harbor Commission is very concerned about that, as in their role as advising council. And so the long and short of it is that Chip made the presentation to the commission on Zoom, and Donna Cook and also Deb Janik were in attendance, and Mr. Vieira. I don't remember his first name. And Chip is hoping that he could bring this same presentation or something like, close to that. Whoops, sorry about that. That's supposed to be my husband picking up from me. Hey, Chip, you're on. I'm usually on Skype with our grandson at this time. So he's calling me, hon. You'll have to call Kai, I guess. Or call Kira. I'll try to get it worked out. Sorry about that, everyone. See, you're taking me from my my tutoring time. Anyway, the thought is that if we could get the town council to be, on board, they could start to think about policies that, in terms of locating things along the shoreline, what are the ways we can mitigate as a town the effects of sea level rise? How do we have a public education program to try and make everyone more aware of their, individual steps, and also maybe a community-wide efforts that we might do? And Chip has said he'd like to do the presentation to the council and also to the Open Space Commission at some point. He said that it's probably about a 30 or 35-minute slideshow. And he offered to kind of lead the effort if people wanted to form a task force, if the town was willing to support that idea, and the council and town administrator, Chris, you're here, in order to be more proactive and get Tiverton to, begin to think about this in terms of policy. So I wanted to revive everyone's memory of our great success a year ago, and also let you know that, Chip is definitely trying to take some initiative right now. And it's really just to let you know that. If we as a commission are interested in having him come, we can sort out when he might come by Zoom to a meeting and share his presentation with the Open Space Commission. So that's the climate change piece.
I think that's a great idea, Gail.
Okay.
Certainly, someone sort of taking charge, or not necessarily taking charge, but leading, getting something moving in some coordinated way would be great. We could even, once again, invite Land Trust to sit in if he wants to come to us and, start the conversation with Open Space, and how Open Space and the Harbor Commission might work together, or how the town might, proceed forward. So
right. I think that the thought is that there are a lot of stakeholders, right?
Yes.
Planning is involved here, Harbor Commission, Open Space, Land Trust. There are many different groups that could, in fact, be at that table.
Recreation,
Yep.
conservation and recreation.
Definitely. So, but, trying to get a sense of the interest, and also what the logical combination of people would be, and how we might, get the ball rolling, or not regain the momentum. I think there was a fair amount of interest and momentum last year after that program at the library. And so, it's worthwhile, I think, too. So I don't know who all the stakeholders are, but it sounds like at least minimally we would have open space and invite the land trust to the next, to the time we do this, whenever that happens to be.
Certainly conservation.
Yes, yes. Conservation, land trust. And, you know, it's the more people who are at the Zoom, of course, the better you're getting more of the word out, but you also then, you know, it's harder for people to have a chance to speak or share. And so, but I agree.
Well, but I think
This would also, sort of jumping agenda items here, but would dovetail, I think, with the work down at Fogland.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the hope, right now, the update is the engineers, as of a week, 10 days ago, had not started the work. They'd done the background research, but hadn't started the work. And Wenley Ferguson was encouraging them to get it done as a priority, because she anticipates the state bond
Yep.
for resilience, that the call for proposals will be coming out sometime late February, early March. She's hoping it's delayed a little bit. And you'll recall we missed being able to apply for that because COVID hit and town council wasn't taking anything but emergency sorts of actions there originally last year when it was due in, I think it was early April was the deadline. So we're trying to coordinate that and move forward. And I think that's, what's that?
That's question 2, right? On the ballot, is that funding, the beach clean water and green bond that's on the ballot in March?
Well, that's part of it, yes.
Okay.
And I honestly don't know if there's already funds from a previous bond that she's anticipating, or if this vote will create that opportunity.
I have to believe it's a previous one, because
I think so.
Yeah, because this is March 2nd. That's when it's going to be voted on.
Yeah,
So it had to be the previous funds, but.
Yeah.
Well.
And I think that's for the town. That's probably the most vulnerable spot in town.
Yeah, there are some pretty dramatic slides of like with a 25-year event of what would be flooded in town. And, there are, obviously, we could easily have an island off Fogland rather than a connection. And likewise, even the Stone Bridge area is very vulnerable. I mean, the good thing about the abutment, of course, is that it now protects the basin, right? The basin was really in danger, much more, threatened than it had been before. But I think that, it would be very helpful to have the Fogland be a part of it. And I think the slides are pretty convincing for our own local shoreline.
I think this
by
is great.
the URI group did they did the mapping.
Right. Yeah, all that mapping stuff is available through the state. 3-foot rise, 5-foot rise, 50-year, 100-year.
Yeah, you get once in 100-year hurricane.
Yeah.
What does it do, and who's swamped, that kind of thing. Those things are available.
So now we're getting those every 10 years instead of every 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, 200-year floods can happen 2 years in a row too.
That's true.
It's just the likelihood, right?
So that means we're good for 200 years.
No, it means you could get 2 in 100 years. We could get one tomorrow, but hopefully not. But I live up from the Sepauwett, and I'm telling you, when we have a real flood tide and the conditions with the wind pushing the water, it's definitely impressive. I have a lake. So I'm sure others have been aware of that as well. So that's my pitch, and I'm glad to have you be supportive. And I think we can coordinate when this might happen. I have to chat with Chip, obviously, who's now playing grandpa and taking care of this guy call with Kai. Anyway, that's what we'd like to do. I mean, is that what you'd like to do, is try and arrange going forward?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
move forward. And,
Very good.
Try to strike up a date and invite who the people that would be part of the committee, and hope, get it moving.
Okay, very good. And I will send everyone, almost everyone has Chip's email address, but I will send that, and I will send a little email, and then people can get back to me and say, who should we definitely include, or how should we approach this in terms of, is it a regular meeting? I don't know how much will stack up if we try to do it at the April meeting. I mean, meeting every other month is convenient in some ways, but it means that we might call a special meeting, I guess, is what I was thinking, potentially.
Well, we can check with who the other people are going to be and try to come up with something that's
Right.
compatible with everybody.
Sounds good. Okay, well, thank you for your attention and for that. I had one other announcement. I know people know about the bond, but I just wanted to share, Ray Lundgren was a member of our community who I think I knew him through the library because he was the treasurer when I got involved in the Union Public Library. He passed away recently, and I just thought it would be nice to share for a moment a reminder of how many committed people we've had in our town to do so many good things over the years. And this is actually from his obituary. Committed to community service, Raymond served on the Tiverton School Board and was appointed the first chairman of the Conservation Commission in Tiverton. He was a charter member of the Save Our Community, which successfully fought to keep the oil refinery out of town. He was a treasurer for the Union Public Library, Amicable Church, and was a founding member of the Tiverton Land Trust. Now, his involvement in the refinery precedes any time I lived in town, but there is a little article somewhere in the Union Library about how the townspeople really said, no way, no how, not here. And he was involved in that fight. And he was just one of those people who was very quietly going about all these different things and contributing to the quality of life in our town. And I just wanted to note that and have us all think for a moment about how thankful we are for people just like Ray Lundgren. And he was a great guy. I mean, friendly, helpful, just a nice man. And COVID took him in the end. So that's another black mark on the COVID line. So thank you for your attention. Martin, you probably knew him.
Oh, I knew. Yeah. I had interactions with Ray for a long time, and he was, just quietly brilliant, actually.
Yeah, really. And he was a master gardener. I mean, if you read the obituary, it's like, really? Gary, I think you said it. He had a stunning career, stunning life.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Good. Well, thank you, Gail. That's a nice thing to remember and bring to our minds. Okay. Any other announcements or reports? Actually, I have a couple. Did everybody get the social media policy that was sent out from the town?
We did. I did.
Okay.
I
Good.
don't have to worry because I don't do
Well,
Facebook or his social media stuff
me either.
anyway. So
I think you and I are in the minority.
Yeah.
Barton.
It looks like we lost Sean Paul.
Oh, I don't see John Paul.
Whoops.
Yes, he kind of disappeared.
Well,
It disappeared quite a while ago, so if somebody's not taking notes.
oh goodness. Okay.
I can keep record. Yeah, I'll back him
Okay.
up on that.
Okay.
A couple other things. We did get. Did anyone not get the Land and Water Conference information? March 19th and 20th. It's another Zoom meeting. It's over 2 days, and it's a joint Massachusetts, Rhode Island affair this year. So that's, I won't say it's their typical spring meeting because it's not typical because it's going to be on Zoom. But if you need any more information on that and missed the email, I can get it to you.
Yeah, and right, I Googled it earlier because I wanted to make sure that I could, mention it too. And so you can also just put Land and Water Summit RI and Mass and get it. But if you have the link, that's helpful for people. Are people interested in going or attending, or how are we feeling about that?
Well, there were a couple of things that looked pretty interesting, but
Yeah.
I don't know how meaningful it's going to be on Zoom, but
Well, in some senses, it's easier than driving over there and spending a whole day. You can sit at
Oh,
home.
that's good.
For
Yeah.
the boring speakers, you can go have
Yeah.
a beer or whatever.
Golly, yeah, you can get something done in between, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, pick your nose or whatever you want to do. Well, you could do that.
Okay, well, I was just curious about the interest and sort of how we thought that would actually work. Rupert is retiring. I saw that. So that, I think that'll be a change because he's had a strong leadership role, it seems.
Yeah, he certainly had quite a career up there. One other little thing, I was contacted by email by a lady named Elena Russell. She actually works at the URI, the University of Rhode Island Biology Lab. That's the lab over there that does all the tests for invasive species or biocontrols and so on. And URI is a cooperating partner in a group called FEMC, Forest and Ecology Monitoring Collaborative. And that's being directed out of the University of Vermont. And URI is the Rhode Island representative, and she's the action person for URI. So I'm not sure exactly, what all they're doing. They've got a website and so on. I can pass that along if you'd like to check it out. It's a long-term monitoring thing, trying to make some coordinated New England assessment of climate change related changes in our forest, in our regional forests. And so she's trying to get around to the state and look at some of the representative forest communities. And so she's asked me for a tour of actually, she's interested particularly in what's called the oak hickory forest community, and see if I could take her around and show her representatives of that forest community. So the weather's been so crappy, we haven't been able to do that. But anyway, we'll be doing that sometime in the next few weeks. Any other announcements?
I would like to have at least a link about that. I'm interested in at least having you send whatever to read more or whatever, please.
Sure. Actually, I'll just forward that to everybody so you'll know.
Yeah, I think
sounds
that'd be great.
Pretty cool.
So, all right. Is that the end of the announcements? We'll move to the next thing. Okay. Item 2 is the Rhode Island Assembly bill about declaring town-owned properties in public trust if they're not covered by easements. I got
Gary,
yes.
just to be clear, or tell me if I'm wrong, it's just
Enabling.
allowing towns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. It would be a bill in the state that says towns can do that.
Yeah.
So, hey, Jean Paul.
Hey, John Paul. Welcome back.
Okay, so anyway, I had a draft that I'd worked up last year. It was really kind of a boilerplate thing, but just yesterday, Rupert sent me a specialized draft he worked up. Again, it's still boilerplate, but it's got Tiverton language in it, and it's got the current bills. Jay Edwards is actually going to introduce the bill in the House, and someone else is going to do it for the Senate. So what I suggest doing is I will work up a draft and send it out to everybody. And it basically says if there's not a easement on a property, a town that owns property that's being used for public use, either recreation or, like the town farm, Fogland Beach, those aren't covered by easements. So there's really nothing that, it would make it a little bit easier for a future town council to say, that'd be a nice place for a hotel or something. We need more tax space. It's kind of, ridiculous to think of, but it's worth thinking of maybe endorsing that legislation that would allow a town to do that. It doesn't make us do anything, but at least it makes it possible. So I've got that draft. I haven't sent it out yet because I thought we're busy enough tonight to try to work it up. If you would like to proceed on the basis that I'll draft something, send it out to everybody, and if we could agree by email, then we can forward that as a recommended resolution
The town council.
Yeah,
to the town council. Yeah. Well, we could do our own resolution, but the council's the one that probably really counts.
Yeah, yes.
we could do a resolution, and the council would also, hopefully there would be 2 resolutions. Is that possible from the town, or to endorse it?
It's all written for the town of Tiverton, and they're asking us to
okay.
go to town councils to
Yeah, they're the.
send
yeah,
that up
right.
to the state, so.
Sure. Is there any downside that anyone can think of? Is there any reason not to be in favor of this?
Can't think of any. It doesn't make us do anything. It just, it's for a law that allows us to do this. So, and I
That's
think
right.
being able to do that is a good thing.
I think this all grows out of whenever it was 10 years ago when the state was trying to, what was it, build a new state police barracks or something in the open
Oh,
space?
Smithfield. There was a property in Smithfield. I think it
I'm
was.
thinking of the Big River one off of 95.
Well, this one is a more recent one, and Smithfield was going to take a property that had been given to the town for open space, and they were going to use it for something else. And there was a big falderall up there about that, and other states have done this. So it does preclude, if the town chooses to, enact something like that, or to do something like that, it gives one more layer of protection to prevent something like that. So I think that would be a good thing.
And it is a very broadly worded. So it's not just open space the way we think of it, but includes recreation areas.
Parklands, right?
Anything used as a public type of property that benefits the general public. So, okay, unless anyone objects, I'll send out that draft in the next day or 2.
Okay.
Okay, the item 3 is done. There's 2 item 3s. Okay, the second 3 is.
There are 3 item 3s, actually.
Appreciate everybody reviewing the agenda. Of course, I only send out 3 or 4 of them, so.
Well,
Sure you can turn.
you could say, well, we're still on 3, or hey, we're already done with 3.
That 3 is a tough one to get past.
We're on 3B and we're going on to C after that.
Yeah, I
Actually,
think
there's 3 3s.
yeah, there are.
3 is a popular item for this agenda meeting. Okay, so the Trailguide booklets, I just wanted to make you aware and also get your concurrence. We've got, lots and lots of those left, and the town and the land trust has lots and lots of them left. So I'd like to, these little plastic distributor things, we're having tons of people coming to our to our areas. And so I thought, hey, you know, the longer we keep those, the more chances we're going to make a major change, and there's going to start to be outdated. There's none so far, but let's get them out to the public now. And while there's all these people coming, give them a chance to pick one up, and then they've got the whole town. So this, I've got boxes of them down in my basement, and I'd be happy to, on the Weetamoo trailhead, the main trailhead, the up at Fort Barton, and then the land trust has already given me permission to put some up there, and they'll use their own supply at their main trailhead, Barton Gray. So anybody think that's not a good idea?
It's a good idea.
Okay, done. Okay, current projects. The master plan. This is the third three item.
Gary,
Yo,
I might suggest putting them on outside at town hall where those voting things are. They have like little plastic containers there that in the beginning I was putting them there and they would always be taken right on the side.
I have to screw these in. Is there some kind of wood?
They
strip?
have some boxes there. You could find out how they're using them.
Okay, yeah, I can check that. Yeah,
That's a good place to put them. People actually look there actually for the Fort Barton trail maps.
okay,
But
good thought.
booklets would be a good place for the town.
Okay, thank you.
And even the two library supplies, probably, we could add some to them because that's another place that people pick them up. I know the pile has been disappearing from Union. I don't know about the main branch, but.
Well, I used to keep those full, and I think other people did too, but I haven't been on there recently for obvious reasons.
Nobody's right. People aren't visiting like they were,
So
but
but you can get in over there. So I'll
yeah.
make sure that's refreshed too. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't mind dropping at the libraries if you drop them to me, but if it's easier to just do it yourself, whatever way it works.
So I can give you a big handful.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, cool. All right. The master plan, that's, you recall, we had some amendments to do. I collected those, corrections and so on, sent them up to Sarah Bradford, and just a few days ago, I got the PDFs of the finals back, so I'll send those out to everybody so you'll have a copy. So that, and we paid the bill for that. So we are up to date in terms of paying her, and we're sort of at a suspended state here until I think probably we might hang on until the next budget comes out, and we'll see how we want to go. Now we got money in the Pecassin Lands Fund and so on, but we also don't know if we're going to have to use some of that for operating during this year. So I would suggest maybe holding off until we know next year's budget before we take the next step.
Well, the next step actually was public meetings, right? For feedback.
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
That's what kind of derailed it when those stopped.
Yeah. So we could have those meetings and.
Well, maybe by fall.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good thought, and sort of not let it sort of fade into the background, and then things tend to disappear when that happens.
Get the feedback and incorporate that and that type of thing.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, cool. All right. Okay, Fogland Beach. Brian, you want to have any more to say? I know you've already addressed that briefly. But...
Yeah, I think the only other part is there. The snow fencing came out, and I'm still not sure why. But part of that process was to then do Christmas trees and sand, which has happened, and there's more to go, actually. But there's quite a bit of new dunes down there. And if it ever stops snowing, so they don't have to be plowing the roads, they're going to continue to expand that a little bit. And that process we may end up putting the snow fencing back in because the reason that was there was to try and provide a break in the breaks between the dunes, because that's where all the sand blows through. And those breaks are still there, obviously. And that whole project is also waiting on a public meeting feedback, which when the engineering report's done, that's going to be the next step there, moving towards a master plan for that area as well. So hopefully we'll have the engineering work back on the stormwater in the next few days. I just, for info, drove down there today to see, and the puddles were enormous on the roadway. So hopefully we'll be able to do some things to help mitigate that.
That's one thing. Certainly is going to be a very visible thing, you know, in terms of addressing the climate change. So that may be just a thing that kind of gets us going even more strongly. So that'd be a great, you know, lead off, very visible action that.
Well, and that little break that goes through the dunes to the north, through the area we're now supervising, is the one that really worries me. Because that's the narrowest point of that whole, whatever it is, isthmus, I guess.
And pretty low too.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, a storm could blow through there and we'd have to have a bridge.
Make an inlet.
Yeah.
That's what it would do. Well, and there's some, you know, there's saltwater intrusion too as sea level rises. So that impacts the freshwater, you know, supplies in certain areas. So there are a lot of a lot of things to contemplate as you try to figure out how to move the water or move the water in the right place so it doesn't have, you know, flooding and damaging effects.
Okay. Okay, is that you good there, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Next item is the interpretive signs for Weetamoo, and I've been trying to get in touch with Don Medeiros to see what the status is on doing his research. I guess he's been pretty busy. Haven't been able to touch base. At some point in time, we'll just do without that and go with the knowledge we have. My idea, as you recall, is to try to go back and find out who owned the thing while the mill was operating and give us some insight into the history of the place. I also started thinking about the Scipio Cook cellar hole. And there's a lot of really interesting information about that person in the book that came out last year from the Little Compton historical group there on should Jane want to be sold. Really interesting book, and a whole section on Scipio Cook. He also has a connection to Winnisimmet Farm, believe it or not. So that was something I had not been aware of. But anyway, I thought, given that background and so on, and how good that site is as a representative squatter type site right on 8 Rod Way, and the known background of him, and the connection of that site with all the other sites on 8 Rod Way up and down, you know, Pecasset Ridge and so on, that might also be a great place to put one of those signs, those historic signs that would provide some interpretation of that. So that's something I might offer as another one to work on. So anyway, any comments on that idea?
No, just continuing, you know, I think it's a timely a timely effort anyway, but also to gain some insight as to all of the activity, the social and economic activity that took place on Nate Rod Way with the mill being there would be of particular interest to the town.
Okay.
Gary, just
Yeah.
how, it seems to me, I just was told that that's Scipio Cook's cellar hole, and I accepted that. How
Yeah.
certain are we that that is the case?
Well, I share that, but then the account in that, I actually tried to call Marjorie, what's her name? The author of the book there,
Yeah,
to see where she got her information. She actually, in that book, has a photo of the Weetamoo Trailguide with Scipio Cook marked on it.
yeah.
You remember we took that out of the trail guide because I wasn't sure. I got that information from Art.
Yeah,
Now,
I kind of thought it might have come from Art.
Art's got a pretty darn good record. So I still wasn't absolutely sure. So I took it out of the latest trail guide, that little notation on the guide that's Scipio Cook cellar hole. And then when I saw it in her book, I tried to get in touch with her to see where she got her information. I was hoping she didn't get it from the trail guide, but it was very, very thoroughly done. So I got to thinking, well, she probably has it right, but we'd obviously want to try to verify that before we.
Yeah, isn't it in the diary of, is it Burroughs, or I've got it here somewhere?
Yeah, I was
You
not
have a
able to find
picture?
that. That Art had made that comment, and I actually checked that book out years ago and went to the index, and there were several mentions. There was 2 or 3 places Scipio Cook was mentioned, and there was nothing in there that would lead to that conclusion. So I'm not sure where he got his information. So, but I was a little more convinced by reading all of the account in that Marjorie O'Toole book, because it was really very complete. He had a real reputation in town for being a freed black, and was a common, a really reliable laborer and so on, and very popular. And I guess so. I do want to try to pin that down more authoritatively before we would put up a sign there,
Right.
But I think if that being done, I think that would be really an interesting sign that connects with. I know one thing that Elaine Lee used to say was he was probably a worker at the sawmill, and I have no idea where she got that. Or he was possibly, I think was the way she put it. But anyway, we'd have to certainly certify that before we went to press on $1,000 sign to put up down there. So anyway, unless there's some hesitation on that, we'll proceed on that basis. Obviously, I haven't even started to draft up anything, and I don't know why. I've only been talking about it for a year now. So, but anyway, I would like to stay on that and get it done, because I think it'd be a great addition to our trail system down there. Okay, Jean Paul, are you there?
He's on mute.
Yeah.
Okay, Jean Paul, as usual, has been working away on his.
Oh, here he comes.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jean Paul, you're on.
Okay. As far as stewardship goes, I've been working on the trails like usual. I've been working on the red trail coming in from Lake Road. And I've been working on a mountain laurel stretch, which has been really hard. So the going's been real slow, but I'm I'm getting there. So by the end of next season, I should have all the trails lopped and trimmed. I wanted to get it done by the end of this season, not even close. But by the end of next season, that should be good. So if you want to see what I plan that they look like, I mentioned this to you before. The meadow trail back to the kiosk on the orange trail has been both lopped and trimmed. So that'll give you somewhat of the idea what my point is. When I've been working, somebody has mentioned that, asked me why I went so far back off the trail. It had to do with the way things grow. If things are growing completely straight vertically, but they're far enough off the trails, it doesn't bother me, but a lot of things grow into the trail. So if I don't cut them far enough, it'll just have to get done too soon. So the problem is the trails lose a sense of intimacy. So there's that line between not getting contacted by vegetation and intimacy. So there's kind of like that. So I think some people really kind of don't like it, but it's going to have to be done so the maintenance won't have to be done so often. That's kind of my goal, where the trails could be maintained every other year. And the other thing is, if you haven't been on the green trail, I mentioned this before too, I've opened up the waterway underneath the boardwalk. And it looks, that's been my favorite project. That project was great because it looks completely different, where you can see the water. The rocks used to block literally everything at the boardwalk, but now there's actually, you can see the flow of water through underneath the boardwalk, which protects the boardwalk and it lets the flow be more natural. So that's kind of what I've been working on. That's about it.
Okay, you want to mention the Fort Barton incident?
Yeah, if you haven't been to Fort Barton, somebody graffitied the whole front, all the barricades in the front. They graffitied some trees going up. They graffitied that informational sign going up towards the tower. I was able to clean that one. It worked out really well. I had some brush cleaner and the paint came right off without damaging the sign. So, and I believe that, Sean, you went to the PD, is that correct?
Oh yeah, I took care of creating a offense report from the police department. So the officer who took the report had gone out and taken pictures. I know I talked to Gary and mentioned that it was a good idea that you probably also took pictures, because he, without someone there showing them where everything was, at least you have a documentation of all the pictures. But there was a police report made. It's actually 21-185-OF. So for the meeting minutes, if it ever need to be pulled or, referred to, that's the offense report.
That was 21-185-OL.
OF. F as in
OF.
Frank.
Okay.
Offense.
Yeah. I took pictures. There wasn't much going up. There was a tree in the back of one of the plaques was painted, and then that sign, and that was the extent. I was surprised they didn't get the tower, but they didn't. They seemed to stop right there. So
Okay.
John,
If you have the photos, you can send them to me by email, and then I'll forward them to the officer that took the report. That way he can also attach your photos to the report.
okay, I'll do
If
that.
you want.
Yep.
John, unless you object, I've got some good different colors of camo paint. That part that's down there under our Fort Barton readout sign, right under that, I'd like to mask that over, blend it in with the color of the stone, so that's not visible. It's not a big thing, but it's it just, as you're looking at our beautiful new sign, if that thing is
Right.
So,
Gary, I'll take care of that. The reason I waited, the weather hasn't been that good.
yeah,
I
okay,
wanted to
okay,
wait till it warmed up. I believe I have plenty of paint. So
okay.
I can take care of that.
All right, good. All right, thanks.
Wouldn't power washing just take that?
Um, I was wondering if the town has a power washer where the DPW, I mean, as far as those cement barriers in the front, that might be the better way to do it.
I've got my brother's, well, we have a community family power washer, which I can get. It's got a gas engine. It just needs, you need to be able to plug it into a hose though with water.
Oh, okay.
There's no tank, so it has to have a water source.
Yeah, I can cover them all. I was just wondering if this town had a vehicle or something that they use to do stuff like that.
Well, the thing about,
It's worth checking with Rick Rogers at
I would
DPW.
think they would have something like
Yeah,
that. And honestly, it's town property. They should have some responsibility and maybe try to remove it too. Why
Right.
not?
The fire department to come with a hose.
There you go. That'll work.
That
Maybe.
might actually work.
That might work.
yeah, I mean, if it came off the sign, seems like it maybe isn't bonded that well.
the sign's one thing,
Yeah,
Credit, something else.
cement's another thing, or stone.
Yeah.
If you want, I can contact DPW this week, and I know there's also a maintenance crew that goes out. Manny and Gary, they're in that white truck that's always driving around. I
Yeah,
know they do routine maintenance stuff around the town. Maybe they're the guys that would go out and do that.
Yeah.
I can look into that if you want me to. I just don't
Yeah,
know, like, is there certain spots like a power washer might do damage? It wouldn't damage the stone sign, correct? I mean,
No,
obviously-
the stuff up, I'm talking from the town, at least those barriers.
just the barrier, like a
Those-
Jersey
yeah, the
barrier.
barriers in the front, because they literally,
Yeah.
it goes from one end to the other, okay? And what Gary's talking about was on the cliff itself, just to the left, as you're facing the sign, there's a big marking on the cliff. That's the one that Gary is,
Okay.
I was like really happy they didn't paint the sign.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
Actually, I was,
So we are aware of it. We haven't got to a point where we've got the right product to clean it yet.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
well, I can recommend after years of working at colleges, Goof Off works really well.
I'd rather find little perpetrators and make them do it, but that's all right.
Yeah.
With a
That would be-
toothbrush, preferably.
Yeah.
That would be ideal.
Okay, that's all I have for stewardship. John Paul, that's your report, right?
on
And
what? That's
Stewardship.
it for me, yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
done.
Okay, and Brian, nothing for executive session, was that?
Nope,
is
nope,
it-
no news. Things are just progressing along.
Okay. Anything else that anybody else wants to bring up?
We do have executive session minutes from the last meeting in
Oh, yes.
December. And
Yeah.
so perhaps we should take the necessary steps to approve or modify those if need be.
Well, I sort of included, it was an all-inclusive statement up front, but we'll do that separately. That's fine. Any
No, I
changes?
don't care. If I
Any
don't, it
changes to
doesn't
the
matter.
executive session? Anybody has? Any objection to approving them?
No.
Okay, we're good. Anything else?
I saw one thing online that had to do with sea change. And it was a picture of a beach, and it had signs about sea level rise going up the beach, 25 years from now, 50 years from now, and how high it would be. It'd be kind of interesting to maybe figure that out, and you could put a sign indicating that on the entrance to Fogland.
Actually,
How
interestingly
tall,
enough,
how high-
yeah, that's one of the thoughts that Chip had, and actually he brought that to the attention of the Harbor Commission, is that there are places that show you, what the flood, what with a
Yeah.
measure, some kind of a meter stick, you'd see where
Right.
the flood would be.
Sure.
And very similar idea. And he was suggesting that might be something both to inform people of the hazard, but also just to, for emergency personnel to recognize that, oh yeah, this place is going to be 3 feet above water if we get a certain kind of storm or underwater. So anyway, that's a good suggestion, Martin. I think
A great idea.
it
Yeah.
has merit. And Fogland, I think, is really a frequently visited area of town that it would be, instructive for something like that.
And maybe even say at the yacht club, they could put a thing there so people would see it. And there's not a lot of places on the waterfront where a lot of public people, there's a lot of public activity, but certainly at the bridge abutment too, you might be able to put
Coastal
something there that would,
roasters.
Yeah.
People respond better to visuals, that's for sure.
yeah.
Okay, if that's all, do I hear a motion
Move
to adjourn?
adjourn.
Second?
Second.
So moved.